Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all work in progress. My name's Rob Commodari. I'm your host. I'm also the author of Better Than You Think in the recently published book, Next Level Your Life, with 43 other authors. So it's a collaborative effect. But today it's not about me. It's about a dear friend of mine, Cindy Aronstam, all the way from San Diego, California. And today, Cindy is going to share something special with us. She's going to share her passion that she developed at a very early age, and it's developed into a really special charitable project. And before we get into the project, Cindy's going to tell us what that passion is and how she got there. So welcome to the show, Cindy.
Hey, Rob, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. So with this passion, and it's very rare that somebody develops a passion at a very early age. And first, I want to ask you, what is that passion that you have?
Sure. Yeah. My passion, and a lot of people love dogs, but mine is this like passion, obsession, crazy dog lady, just absolutely in love with dogs, all breeds, all dogs. My particular one that I've gravitated to in my adult life are bulldogs, English bulldogs in particular, but I love the Frenchies and, but just dogs. And that started way, way, way early on in life. And, earlier than I really remember, but I see photographs and I know, I was about 4 years old when we had, my parents actually had a Scottish Terrier. They had the dog before my brother and I were even born. And so I grew up, into this home with this dog, and I just loved the heck out of this dog. And, I remember being 4 years old and throwing the ball with him. We had this like tiny little kind of basketball, but it was like more of a small inflatable kind of thing. And I remember throwing that in our living room to him. And I've never had a dog do this since, but he would actually retrieve it and then bring it back. Now, I have bulldogs now. They're just like, you get the ball. So, so I remember that and just, being with him and then, he passed away. And when I was 7, we got another dog we adopted from a shelter. And I remember going to the shelter, finding the dog that we wound up bringing home. And then I don't know where I got this from at 7 years old or, leading up to it, but I had like this doll stroller. And I remember putting the dog, 'cause he was young, and I put him into this stroller and he just laid there. I covered him with a blanket, and it just became like, he's my baby. He's my, and I never actually had that, desire to actually have children. It just was not something I ever wanted. And so I don't have any children, but my dogs are my children.
There you go. That's awesome to share. And I love that. So at 4 years old, you're talking about you had your first dog. At 7 years old, you did the little stroller thing with your baby dog in there. And so you have this passion for dogs. And as I was saying before, not many people know at an early age what their passion is. So did you have to connect the dots backwards to see when it started? Or was there a time that it clicked off and you said, you know what, this is my purpose. This is my passion?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I, growing up through the years, I also grew up in New York. So New York is a different mentality than out here in San Diego. And it's a very, work hard, make money, be successful, very, that kind of. And my thing was go into business. I have to go to business school, and go down that path. And I wound up, at one point, listen, before that, when I was much, much, much younger, I wanted to be a garbage man. That's really what I wanted. I wanted to be a garbage man. I wanted to drive an 18-wheeler truck. I still do, but at only 4'10", I don't even think I could reach a pedal. So, if any of your listeners do have an 18-wheeler and I can put like these big blocks on the pedals and, and I can learn to drive it, I would absolutely love to. It's still a bucket list item. But I went through, like, I wanted to be an optometrist, and then I wanted to be an advertising executive. And you can thank Who's the Boss for that one, because I was growing up in the 80s and, that was all over the TV, and I wanted to be an ad exec, and I actually did. I went to college for marketing and advertising, and that's where I went. But anytime I saw dogs in my life, just even I remember being in college and on our campus, anytime somebody had a dog on there, it was just like, hold on, I have to stop talking to you. I need to go talk to this dog. And so it wasn't really until I got into real estate where my next career and, and then it was like, how can I tie dogs in with real estate? And, it was tough for me in the beginning because I was this perception of who I was supposed to be and, be professional, and dogs aren't professional, and you're showing up with dog hair on your clothes, and like, that's not professional. But I never truly felt like my authentic self. And so when we got out here to San Diego and I was, looking at it, and I was a bit older, and now it was like, hey, you know what? Like, what really gets me going? What am I passionate about? And it was helping people find their dream home, and through selling, helping them find their dream home through selling and buying real estate, but also dogs. And I was always passionate about giving back to the community and doing charitable giving. And so once I tied in the dog piece to my real estate business, I just felt like this is me. This is just, I was more passionate about what I was doing, getting up and going to work every single day. And then I tied, the charity piece in because I wanted to be able to give back. And so I donate to animal rescue with every home that I sell. And
that's
so
great. God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it just kept building.
And it's built over time. So I'll say two things. One, when like I'm watching Cindy on the screen right now, when we talk about dogs, her face just lights up. So there's a passion there. And then the second thing I was thinking is like, okay, you had this passion for dogs, and you're working into real estate. What is it about the dog specifically that makes you hum in your heart?
I just don't know. I think there's just something so special about a dog to me that is, they need you, they lean into you. There's a trust. There's just some connection that I have. I don't know what it is. There's a pull there, and I feel it. And the tying it together, I was selling real estate for about 10 years in New York before we moved to San Diego. And I was part of this small, like, networking type group. And in the group, we were all sitting in the circle, and we were trying to help one another. Not everybody was a realtor, but we were just helping each other with our businesses. And I, at the time, was, into skincare and dogs, of course, and charity and real estate. And I said to them, like, here's what my challenge is. How do I tie it all together? I want to let people know I'm interested in all of these things. And somebody said, when you talked about dogs, so it's funny to hear you just say this, Rob. They go, when you talk about dogs, your entire face just lights up. And they said, you have to tie the dog piece into real estate. And it does go hand in hand because you're helping find homes for people, and you're helping the dogs, you're helping them find a home too. And in that moment, it was like, let's go, let's figure this out. And then I just started kind of marrying the two together. Now, at the time, my beloved bulldog, Winston, he was sick. And when I went to this conference, I didn't know, it was a very touch and go time. He wound up dying just 2 days after I got back from the conference. So when I was there, I was figuring out, how do I tie in all of this marketing, in this brand, of this bulldog? How do I make this mesh with my real estate business and really help the community by, giving back and donating with every home that's sold, but also, helping bring people together, and help find dogs homes, not just donating through money.
And so for every house you sell, you give a little piece to charity. And so Winston got sick, and you created this project. It's called the Winston Project.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about that?
I would love to tell you all about it. So Winston was my beloved bulldog. We got him. He was only 8 weeks old. We got him from a breeder, a very reputable breeder. It was also before we knew about rescuing. And now I would only ever rescue a dog. And in fact, we have 2 rescue dogs right now. But Winston was, there was something about him also that was super special. And, we had him almost 14 years. He died 3 weeks before his 14th birthday. And for anybody who knows bulldog and the breed, their lifespan is only 8 to 10 years. Wow. So to have him for as long as we did, I think it's a testament to the love, the care, the connection, and also just the, there was just something there. I mean, it does happen. I've known of older bulldogs, but it doesn't happen all that often. And so what really got me was in his last year, when he really got injured, what happened was we had him there. He would, we lived downtown in a high rise in Little Italy in San Diego. And, he was starting to have, more challenges, but he would be able to get up and walk, and, but he was older. He was almost, he was 13 years old. So walking a great distance, he really couldn't do. So, but sometimes he was a stubborn bulldog, just who he is. And he just kept walking, and he was now 6 blocks in. And we're like, there's no way he's going to make it back home. And I've heard friends in Manhattan that, have had to call cabs to like put their bulldogs in because they walk and then they're like, they can't get them home. So
I've never heard that. That's great.
It is a bulldog thing. Look, these guys are like 70 pounds. They're all muscle, and you're not getting them back home. I mean, they put the brakes on when they want, and they don't want to move. You're not moving them. So we had bought this radio flyer wagon for him that we thought, like, as he gets older, like he'll go into it, he'll love it because he doesn't have to walk. But he's such an independent guy that he was like, I don't want to be a part of that. I want to walk on my own. So now he's 6 blocks in. I go home, I get the wagon, I come out, I meet him and Jim, and we put him in this thing and he's fighting it. So I'm like lifting him up and putting him in. And I have to hold him in the wagon because it's not covered. It doesn't have, zip or anything. And he really is fighting to get out. And I'm like, I'm just trying to save my dog. I don't want him to die, from like heat exhaustion. So we're walking him back. We get almost all the way back to our place. And there's like a little cutout where the garage opening is. And so we pull over like on the sidewalk, and I go to let him out of the wagon, and he jumped over my shoulder. Somehow when I was bent over, he took this leap and jumped over me. He landed on the sidewalk, right on his spine, right on his backside, like boom, bam, right on it. And both of us, Jim and I, were like, oh, there was this gasp of like, oh my God. And he got up, but right after he got up, he started doing this weird walk. We could see it like in his hind legs. And we weren't sure, like, we just didn't think the spine, we thought maybe the hips. That's because a lot of these dogs have hip issues. And so we, brought him back upstairs and kept an eye on him, and he seemed okay, and he went to sleep and he was fine. And then later on that day, you could just tell, like, that was the deterioration of whatever injury he had, and we had to now figure it out. So we took him to the vet for x-rays. He went to an acupuncturist. We went to a place that does rehabilitation here in San Diego. They do acupuncture and rehab. They have an underwater treadmill that they put dogs in to walk, because the water allows them to walk a lot easier. It doesn't, it takes away a lot of the weight. And so we had him in there. They have an agility course, because all of that is supposed to build up the strength. The acupuncture is supposed to help with whatever pain he was in. And then all of the other stuff we were doing was to help build up the muscle because he was starting to atrophy. And so what happened was he was improving, and they kept track of it, and they would tell us how many minutes he was doing in the tank. And, he was doing great with this. And I was right there with him. And all of a sudden, 1 week, he started to he wasn't able to go past, like he was at 7 minutes and he couldn't go past it. He actually slipped back to 4 minutes, and you could see he was struggling, and I didn't want to push him. So I said, okay, let's stop here. And the week after, when I had him back, we were still at like 4 minutes, maybe 3.5. And I'm like, all right, talk to the vet. Something's going on. He shouldn't be going in reverse. And she said, you know what? We looked at the x-rays. We had compared x-rays that they had done, and there was something about his spleen that she didn't like. And she said, you know what? Go get an ultrasound of his abdomen. Let's go check that out and see if something's going on with one of his organs. And she said, you know what? While you're there, just have his chest done. Let them do the heart. They'll do the chest. He's already shaved. Like, just let them look at it. And both of us are like thinking nothing of it. This dog is fine. And, okay, we'll go do this. So we do it. We're at the ultrasound place. They come back and they tell us, we're in the waiting room, and she comes out and she says, hey, great news. We looked at his abdomen. His spleen does look a little something there, but it looks benign. We're just going to keep an eye on it, but it looks okay. They're still in the back. They're doing his chest right now. So now, like, Jim and I are like kind of high-fiving, hugging, excited, like, oh, we're in the clear. Everything's fine, because we were here for the spleen, not for anything else. And so now when they come back outside, they motion, like with the hand motion, like come into this side room, and we're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
And so that was it. Like, we got in there and it was all downhill. It was, he had, they said he had a tumor on his heart valve. He had, it was fluid around his heart. He was actually, we didn't learn this right then and there, but afterwards he was in kidney failure. So it was a blessing that we learned all of this stuff. It was just a shock, because now we were able to go to work to take care of him. Now, if we hadn't learned it and we kept pushing him in that underwater treadmill, he would have drowned. Like he would have just choked to death. He would have had a heart attack. He could have gone into cardiac arrest. I mean, we would have pushed him too much. And so now we were able to figure out, okay, what's needed. We found a cardiologist here at UC Davis. And I, at the time, had no clue. I was like, wow, they make dog cardiologists, like that's a thing. Like, it just didn't even occur to me. Right. Yeah. And so we got in with them, and that team was incredible. And our goal was to make sure that he was living a good quality of life, as pain-free as possible, and that we weren't pushing him or ending his life too soon or too late. That was the biggest thing. We didn't want to, make him suffer. I mean, we were in pain. It was killing us and our hearts were broken, but we didn't want to make him suffer. And at the same time, we didn't want to take his life if he still had a good quality of life. He was eating, he was drinking, he was happy to be around us, as happy as a bulldog can be. Yeah. We still took him. So then at this point, instead of a radio flyer, we actually bought a stroller. They make these dog strollers that have a big covering, an easy way for him to get into the backside of it. He just took one little step up and he was in, and we closed that. It has a zipper. It had little mesh so he could see. So now I'm walking him through the streets of downtown San Diego, pushing this 70-pound bulldog in a stroller. And it just was, he was happy. He was in there. We put, cushion down, blankets, and he was happy. And I didn't realize, so it just advanced the story a little bit, that one last year of all of the things we were doing. And I'm taking pictures and I'm posting them on social media. And I was mainly doing it for me. I didn't realize the impact he was having on others. And I didn't realize it until after he had passed. And the comments that I received, the messages, the calls, the texts, gifts. I had no idea that gifts were a thing. Like I always sent sympathy cards, but the gifts that we received from people, it was just incredible, the outpouring of support, that people had provided. And at that point, I had realized, okay, this dog not just made an impact in my life, on so many other lives. And leading up to it, as I was working on building in this dog, bulldog brand into what I do every day and help people with real estate, I didn't want him to die and that was the end of it. I wanted to create this legacy. And I had gone through, after he passed, I was in a deep depression for 3 solid months. And the crazy part of it is I had no idea I was even in depression. I just didn't know. And I just was like a zombie walking through, like trying to get through the day. I was hysterical, like pretty much all day, every day, crying hard, like bawling, crying hard, to the point where Jim he's like, I just don't even know what to do. Like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I don't even know what's wrong. Like, I don't know. And I was getting ready to like go to a therapist and, work through it, because there was something very deep here. It felt like it was something much more than losing, my beloved dog.
Right.
And so all of the stuff that I had gone through, and I realized, I was like, wow, like that was growing through grief. I grew through grief. And then I turned his loss into a legacy. And that's where Winston Project has come from, because I wanted to continue being able to help other dogs. And what happened was that 3-month period, there were plenty of other dogs that needed fostering, needed homes. And I just was like, I couldn't even look at another dog. I mean, I was that much of a mess. And we live downtown. We live in a high rise. There are dogs everywhere. And I love dogs so much. And here I was walking behind Jim, like I was having him protect me. I couldn't even look at another dog. If there was a dog in the elevator when it opened, I waited for the next one. And so 3 months go by and just something clicked with me. It was actually a talk with a friend of mine who kind of was like, put it into perspective. And I realized, what, Winston wouldn't have liked this. He wouldn't want to see me this upset. I'm not helping any other dogs by staying in this state of mind, this way. And so it kind of just snapped me out of it. And I was looking on one of the rescue sites and I saw this bulldog. And what got me was not so much the dog, it was the wording. And it said that he is still in a shelter. And I thought, like, that it says he's 3 or 3.5 years old. How can this dog still be in a shelter? And how long is still, right? Like, how long has he been there? And so I just reached out to them and was like, tell me the story. And, I'd foster him. I'm not ready to have a dog. I definitely don't want him, but I want him. He can't live in a shelter. He was starting to get depressed. And so I'm like, this dog needs to come, and at least he'll have a safe home until we can find him his forever home. And that's how Harry came to be. He was named Saint Nick at the time. And so, we bring Saint Nick, back to our home. And I was calling myself Lady because I'm like, I'm not mom. You're not, like I was Winston's mom. I'm not your mom.
Yeah.
And Jim, I was like, I called him man. And so like, I was really trying to keep my emotions, and that was more to protect me. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to keep that separated. And, we had him 2 weeks, and I was doing like a write-up for the rescue. They asked, do a write-up, tell us how he is around other people and young kids and other animals. And they said, we have a couple of families that are interested in him. And when I heard that, it was that piece of this connection to a dog that got me. And I thought, and now I didn't know who these families were. I just heard there are a couple of families that are interested in adopting him. And I thought, you know what? We've learned now he's been in 2 shelters in his 3.5 years of life, which is a lot of shelters in a very little, young period of time.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? I heard the word family, and I thought, he's going to need medical stuff. It's going to get costly. They're going to have kids. I don't know if the kids are going to, mesh well with him. And, they're going to, this dog's going to get returned to a shelter. And I couldn't let that happen. And I said, he's not going anywhere. And I said to Jim, I can't get rid of this dog. Now, Jim knew all along that this dog was never leaving.
He knew, but you didn't know yet.
Right? Everybody in my circle, probably including you, Rob, everybody knew this dog wasn't going anywhere. But I was protecting myself so much that I truly believed this, we are fostering. And so we foster failed. And I am very happy to say that I failed at that. I'm totally good with acknowledging that. But we gave him this incredible life, and he's still here. And, it's been 3.5 years, I guess, that we've had Harry now. And, he's had his challenges. He's had his medical issues. He's had his behavioral stuff, but that's what we're here for. And I'm so glad that we're with him, and that, we're able to do what we're doing to make his life the best life. That's great.
So what specifically is the project, though? So what you just explained is how you led up to it. So what is the project? Yeah.
Yeah. So in June, I actually had created this mini documentary, and it's a 19-minute film. And I wanted to share what I learned. And like I stated before, growing through grief and turning loss into legacy, I learned an awful lot. And I wanted to share that with people, because anybody who has lost a pet or has a pet, you're going to go through this. And grief happens at all different stages, all different times. And you don't just get through grief and go, hey, I did the 5 steps of grief and I'm good now. Like, no, it recycles itself, and you just don't know when. And so I wanted to share that message. So I created this mini documentary film where I shared the story. I explained what I learned, the stuff that, I wish somebody had said to me and shared with us, because I think it would have helped. And I wanted to put that down on a film. And so I did a premiere event, and I did it as a fundraiser, figuring, you know what, I want to be able to give back to animal rescue. And so let's do it as a fundraiser event. Did it at a small movie theater, about 45 people. That was it. And we raised $7,000.
Wow.
Just from that event. And then it clicked, and it was like, wow, so there were even people who, couldn't attend and they wanted to. So they supported, they either bought a ticket anyway, said to donate it to someone else, or they just sent in a donation. They wanted to help in some way. And I thought, wow, there's definitely an interest here, and there's a need for it. And so I was able to connect with a lot of great people, and I went, all right, if we were able to do this really small event, I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I created it. And I really did this mini doc, for myself. And so if that's the case, what could we do if we created an organization? And that's where the idea came from. So Winston Project is now very excited to announce we are officially a 501c3 organization.
That's incredible.
And I know, I'm so excited. And so what we're going to do is the fundraising for the shelters and the rescue groups here in San Diego. So the shelters and rescues are out in the field. They're rescuing these animals. They're saving them. Dogs are chained up to fences. People are there's horrible people out there doing these god-awful things to these dogs. And so they're out there every day in the field saving these dogs, and they need money to do so. They're, and they don't always have the time or the manpower or the resources to do these fundraisers. So I don't have the heart. Like if I see a dog that is chained up, I'm going to go rescue that dog. I can't do it every single day. That I just don't have inside of me, but I have a business sense. I have no problem using my connections in my business world to ask anybody for a donation because I know it's going to help the animals. So I figured if we can work on being their fundraising arm, these rescues, the dog rescues and these shelters can reach out to us, seek out grants through us, like put in a grant request. Here's how much money we need because we're going to spay and neuter X number of dogs. And then as a board, we determine, okay, that's going to help the dogs. Is that enough money? Do you need a different vet? Maybe like there's different ways to vet it out and see, make sure that the money is going, the majority of it is going to help the animals. And so we've created this board. Now we have volunteers and we're working on kicking off, what the plan is for our very first event. And so it's in the very, very early stages, but this year, 2023, we're going to have our first event, our big fundraiser. And my goal is $50,000 for this year. That is the, our kickoff goal.
Well, I think you'll get that. You'll get it.
Thank you. Yes, I believe it too. And I'm going to do everything in my power that I can, because I know that it's going to go to such a good cause. It's going to help these rescues to be able to go out and save even more animals, because we're taking the piece away from them. One that they're not very good at. A lot of them are just, they're in the field for a reason and they aren't great at asking people for money. They would just rather go help the dogs than they'll help the animals. And so, I think it's going to be a great partnership and something that's very needed here in San Diego. And already I've met a couple of different foundations who are doing, incredible work and different types of charity building. And, it's a really good community when you talk with dog people. The hearts are there. And that's the biggest part. It's,
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with the hearts being there. Like I can empathize with a lot you said already today. We had a dog that we lost back in October. We had for 13 years and we got him from a breeder. And before that, we had another dog. We had a Weimaraner that lasted 7 years and he got hurt and his life started to deteriorate. So there were 2 dogs we got from a breeder. But as I shared with you just recently, we rescued a dog, and we're in Baltimore, and my son was down at Texas Tech, and he finds a stray dog 2 weeks after we lose our dog, and he wanted to keep the dog. I told him, no, you're in school, you're traveling back and forth, that's not going to happen. And then we went and visited him, and he goes, can we go visit the shelter? And we go visit the shelter, and as you said, I mean, God, hundreds of dogs in these shelters, and my heart started feeling bad for these dogs. Needless to say, they told us they transport to Baltimore, New York. We're like, this isn't going to happen. We're not buying in all this. Next thing you know, 2 weeks later, we have this dog transported from Lubbock, Texas to Baltimore. And we have this dog that we absolutely are in love with. And I don't know what it is, Cindy. I don't know what it is, but I feel like when I can only share my experience, I had a dog from the breeder and he was my dog. He was my buddy. My wife got her second dog. It was her dog, her buddy. And there's a love there, but I just feel a different connection with a rescue dog, because it's like, we don't know. We have no idea what his first 9 or 10 months were. And now because you told me about this 3-3-3 thing, and I'll let you explain that in a minute, but like, it's been 2.5, 3 months now, and he's really taken to us, and he's just a really cool dog. And it's not just about dogs. It's about really any pet, any passion that you have that you just get this feeling for. And I kudos to you for taking this passion of yours and tying it into real estate.
Thank you. Yeah. And there is something special about rescues and a connection. And so we have 2 rescues now because my goal with Harry was to, I wanted to give him time, and I wanted to give him like a year was my goal, a year that we can just love on him, spoil him, and just give him the best life. And we almost made it to a year. We got 7 months, and I saw a photo of now Olive. That's our other bulldog. We were at a fundraiser event, and I saw, for dogs, of course, and I saw a photo of her, and they told me she's coming into the rescue. Like, she'll be here tomorrow. And I'm like, I need that dog. That's my dog. That's my girl dog. And so I met, and so we filled out the application and went through the whole process, and we were able to take her home, and it was incredible. And so what you're sharing, that story that, there's a different love, there is. And I believe rescue dogs, there's like a sense of gratitude that they have. There's just like the kisses I get from Harry, especially when we first brought him in, especially as a foster. Like when he would kiss my face, it was like hard, like he was pushing into, like he was so thankful. And then like if I go away and come back and it's been like a few days or a week, I get that same type of kiss, like thank God you're back.
Yeah.
So there is definitely something, there's something there. And then I think the empathy piece that you mentioned of, we don't know really their story. They can't tell us. We can piece it together. Sometimes the rescues know. Sometimes there's owner surrender where an owner actually says, I can no longer take care of my dog. And they will surrender their pet to, they'll relinquish it and they'll bring it to a shelter. And, sometimes they'll share the story. Other times they're embarrassed. And so they just drop the dog outside with like its food bowl and a blanket, and they leave it overnight, and the shelter opens up the next morning and they come in there to a dog. And so it happens more often than you would even imagine. But there is something special there, a connection that these dogs, they're incredible. I would never, at this point, I will never get a dog from a breeder again. I've been shown the light. I've seen the way. I loved Winston with all of my heart. I still do. I talk to him every single day. I wear this necklace with him on it of him when he was a puppy. This is him. Like, he is a part of my world every single day. I say his name, especially now working with the Winston Project. And, but I got to tell you, seeing how many dogs are out there, and these are good dogs that have just gone through some really bad stuff, and going through with Winston, and watching him age and go through that. Now, look, I said I'm from New York. You guys hear me. I'm talking fast. I work with my hands. Like, I'm fast moving. My brain works fast. Everything I do is quick, 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 quick. Winston taught me patience. He taught me to slow down. I had client appointments, but Winston he was not getting up. I know he needed to go outside and go to the bathroom, and I could not get him to get up. And so I'm not going to force this dog, who's now 13 years old and in pain, to go so that I can get to my appointment. And it had me just talking to my clients and being completely upfront and being open and vulnerable and telling them, here's what's going on. It had me slowing myself down, because when I had my list of like, here's all my items I need to do today, this is my goal, and I got to reach these goals. I have a business coach who's going to be checking in with me. I needed to find different ways to do it. And so one of the things with Winston, his bed was in our bedroom on the side of our bed on the floor. And that was where he liked to be, but he didn't like to be alone. And he, at this point, he had lost his hearing. He could still see us completely, but he lost his hearing. And he would just bark, like, because he didn't know where he was. And he just was like, where are you? And so he just needed to know I was there. So my coach had said, look, you're in the bedroom. If you need to make phone calls, you do it from the bed, because you're sitting right next to him.
Yeah.
And that's what you do. You make it happen. Because I was getting worked up going, well, I have calls I need to make. I have to go and make these phone calls. She's like, you do it. You do it from your home, and you do it while you're sitting right next to him, because he needs you. And then because he was deaf, when he would fall asleep, I could just roll outside of the bed and go on the other side, and I could leave. He didn't know. And he was fine, because he just needed that comfort. And it was my awareness of, I'm here for him. He needs me. He needs me more now in his older years than ever before. And so that's why it truly breaks my heart when I see senior dogs who get turned in because the owners are just like, one, we wanted a puppy, and two, like, I can't take care of an old dog. So it happens more times than you think. So Winston Project, came out from everything I learned from him, and I hope to share with as many people as I can and make an impact. And, maybe one day Winston Project can be, sprinkled throughout the country, and other people can start their own organization of something that's meaningful to them.
That's amazing. And thank you for doing that and get that started, because I believe that if that's what you believe is going to happen, it will happen. So I got to ask you, obviously, we're in this Chiseled podcast, and it's about you becoming who you're supposed to be. Where do you might have alluded to it already, how do you think God's worked into this equation?
I think that we're guided. I think that just as there's only so much that we can control. Now, I'm more spiritual than I am religious, and I've always just been that way. Now, I'll share this story with you, and I think that there's, like I said, there's just stuff that we can control and other things that we can't. it was 2 days after Winston had died. And like I said, I was a wreck. I couldn't, and Jim and I started going for walks. We just would get out of the house. We needed to get away and just walk. So every single day we were walking, but I was hiding behind him. Now for 2 solid days, just couldn't even look at a dog. All of a sudden, 2 days in, we're walking and I see like half a block away, this dog, it was a golden retriever coming towards us. There was just something in this dog's face. I'm going to tear up. There's something in this dog's face. It kind of had like a little bit of gray around his, his like beard area, and his eyes, there was something soulful in his eyes. And as the dog is walking towards us, I said to Jim, because I want to be respectful of him too. I mean, I've been a disaster, and he was looking like he kept it together, but I said, are you okay? I want to say hi to that dog. And he goes, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I need to say hello to this dog. And now at this point, the dog is like right in front of us. And I said to the guy, I said, excuse me. I said, do you mind if I say hi to your dog? And he says, yes. And as I'm bending down, Rob, I'm bending down to say hi to him. And the guy goes, this is Winston.
No way. No way.
And instantly, like I'm smiling now through tears. This is exactly what happened. I was smiling and tearful at the same time. It was a golden retriever, but right. Like what kind of golden retriever is named Winston? Like it's a very English name, right? For a bulldog, it's apparently very common. And why is this the first dog in 2 full days that I forget about looking at, because I wasn't able to even look at a dog. Now I want to pet this dog. And now you're telling me the dog's name is Winston. And right there, I felt like, and why was there a connection? I mean, we just had walked past however many other dogs, and I didn't feel that need to want to talk with them. There was something from that moment. I'm like, that was a sign from Winston. Wow. So I do believe there's a higher power. I feel there are things out of our control. I feel that we are guided for sure. And I feel that my purpose here, my vessel, and this was another big thing that I learned when I was looking at Winston. We were with him. We had the vet come to our home when we decided this is it. And when he took his last breaths, like they give the 2 shots, and like the first shot, he lets out this snore, and I'm like, like I smiled through that too, because I'm like, that's Winston. Like he was just a big bulldog snoring guy. And so, he did that. And then when he took his last breath, and I was still holding him, because I felt that he was still here, even though his heart had stopped. He was gone, but it felt like he was still with me. I felt him. But then all of a sudden, I don't know how many moments, minutes, because everything's a blur. I don't know the timing of it, but I truly felt he's not here. I felt like his spirit was gone. Like his body was a vessel. And for the first time I ever felt that, and I went, wow, like, so our bodies are vessels. What is our purpose? Why am I here? My purpose is to serve. How am I doing that? I serve my clients through real estate. I serve my animals, like with everything I have inside of me. I take the best care of them. I serve the community through different charitable events, not just with dogs, but other, cancer is a big thing for me. I work with that too. So I just want to be able to give back, kids who are in need, I help out with that. So I'm like, I looked at it and I'm going, yeah, you know what? So you asked about God, whoever your audience is, whatever, you believe in, I feel that there's a higher power that's guiding us. Winston, I feel he's my angel now. He's my,
there you go. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And the last question I got to ask, it's a question I ask everybody, is how much more chiseling do you think you got going on in your life?
Oh my goodness. Oh, plenty. I feel like I'm just getting started. I love that your podcast is named Chiseled, because all of us have so much work, and I feel that I will never be done. I've got ideas. I have things that I want to keep bringing to the world and to the community. But the more people I meet, the more ideas I get. And, and this is constantly evolving. I mean, when we moved here, I never thought that this would be, I didn't think I'd be making a documentary, sitting here on the podcast with you, hopefully impacting your audience and however many people we can, having these goals to raise millions of dollars to help save, my ultimate goal is to have shelters completely emptied. No dog or cat ever is without a home. No animals are ever abused, abandoned. I've been following this story from way back in June. unfortunately, in Memphis, there was this guy who set a dog on fire intentionally, and it was his dog. And I'm like, like, you're an animal, you're a disgusting human being. And, this dog was seen by neighbors running up the street full of flames. So all the neighbors are out there with their hoses, like garden hoses, just trying to put this dog, and so I followed this dog's story through social media, and I sent money to them. And, they had, oh God, countless surgeries. The dog, thank God, is totally fine now. It was a pit bull. She never stopped wagging her tail. Like, this dog is incredible. Trusting of the staff that was working with her, had burns on over 90% of her body, 4th-degree burns, like super painful, but is trusting those who are caring for her, humans, when a human is the one who did this to her. When you look at that, I can't think of another creature that would be that forgiving, that loving. You hear like unconditional love with pets, right? With animals. Yeah, there's something special there. And I feel like, not everybody is like that. Not every human is like that. Thank God he's in jail, and he's been in jail this whole time. But, my goal is that the shelters are cleared. Every dog always has a home, and that animal abusers get what is coming to them, and that there's an end to it. I would love to see an end to any type of animal abuse anywhere. And also one of the things, like multi-layer with Winston Project. Right now, we're looking to just raise funds. We need to raise funds so that we can help these shelters and groups. Ultimately, I would love to do spay-neuter programs, another line of education, so that there's that educational piece. Teach kids, this is how you're supposed to treat animals. This is not how you're supposed to treat them. All different, pet therapy programs, because animals make a huge difference in somebody's life, especially when they're going through a hard time.
Well, you're making a big difference in their lives, and it's just awesome for you to share this. And I hope everybody can hear her energy and see her smile on Spotify to know how much that she's impacted by the animals and how much the animals are impacting her. So it's a two-way street, and the whole unconditional love piece is amazing too. So one of the messages I want people to get out of this: we all have different purposes and passions, and you found yours through your dog. And it'd be great for other people to really think and reflect and know what their purpose and passion is too. Because some of us, we grow old and we don't either know what the purpose or passion is, or we don't go after it because we're afraid of what others think. And I love the way you put you put a stake in the ground and you say, this is what I'm going after, and this is what I'm going to represent, and this is what I want to do to serve not just people but animals and the society as a whole. So, man, Cindy, thank you so much for sharing all that. If people wanted to get a hold of you about the Winston Project, how would they get a hold of you?
So I made it super simple. So go to winstonproject.org. You can go to Winston Project on Facebook or Winston Project on Instagram. And if you wanted to find me, I also made it simple. I am the Bulldog Realtor.
And she's a bulldog.
I'm a bulldog. Right? I'm a bulldog. So double entendre there. Yes, I will take care of you and your real estate needs and go to bat for you. And I will be that bulldog negotiator. I've got New York behind me, so we are that strong negotiator. I get my clients what they deserve, and then I go to bat hard for these dogs. That is my true passion.
Man, thank you so much for sharing your heart, sharing your smile, sharing your energy. You've blessed me. You blessed everybody that's listening today, and I couldn't thank you enough.
Thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate you and everything you're doing with this podcast to help as many people as possible. So thank you.
I appreciate that, and thank you. So until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.